Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new here, my name is Ria and in this space we talk about mental and physical well-being from the inside out and just living with intention and just sharing learnings as I go, because definitely learning as I go. But I really hope that this space is useful, and if you find this video interesting, I'd really love it if you'd subscribe and support the channel, because definitely a small channel, but really excited to learn and share with you. So thank you for being here. And today's topic is actually something which I feel like is such an important thing to be thinking about right now, especially with the constant stimulation that is happening within our day-to-day lives. And one of the things that I've been reflecting on is just how having racing thoughts and things feeling back to back and that feeling of overwhelm or sort of anxiousness coming through, of course there's deeper things within that, but sort of within the day to day, what might be making us feel a little bit on edge, and just trying to understand overstimulation essentially. So in today's video we're going to break that down and sort of understand if your brain never seems to feel like it can properly switch off, and also if you feel like you're just thinking about 10 things at once, going over conversations, etc., it might just not be that anxiety or that sense of feeling, of course, which is obviously we all experience and go through, but again it might be overstimulation. So let's jump to why this might be happening and what it might be doing. So essentially, we experience racing thoughts. Our brain is essentially struggling to filter. When we experience racing thoughts, our brain is struggling to filter and prioritize information overall. So we if we're getting so many different inputs coming in, it can be something our brain might find a little bit challenging to prioritize within that noisiness that we might be feeling in our day to day. And then in turn, overstimulation, where we've got just too much input happening. So there things could be from emotional side, from work, from family, etc. That overstimulation, I think, when we're constantly taking information and we're trying to deal with notifications from work or conversations or the noisiness or stress or just expectations in daily life, when things get too much, our brains can often stop processing properly. And I think it's still obviously doing the best that it can do, but things might feel they're starting to come at once, and then that might get us into that sort of thought process where we're constantly thinking and ruminating and overthinking, etc. And I think why I feel like this is something to discuss is why we should care about this is if we are feeling this way constantly, or it's kind of feeling a bit more often than not, it can lead to things such as burnout. It can also affect our sleep, we're not being able to switch off properly at night as well. It can also impact and kind of increase things like anxiety and also irritability, and it can also make us feel out of control or overwhelmed. I don't know about you, but I definitely feel there's things that I have in place that help me get the priorities and stuff, but when things feel like there are a lot, sometimes it can make it a little bit harder to navigate and pin down and actually get things done that are important to me. And I think that, again, in turn, all of that can also impact your productivity and your focus and just how we're showing up in the different relationships in our life. So I think it's not just overthinking as a concept. Overthinking, the way I kind of look at it is you have a certain thought or something going on in your mind, you're kind of delving into that and ruminating in it and trying to understand it and processing it. But I think it's not just an overthinking lens. I think it's the overloaded lens, which I think is something to think about. So from if we zoom out a little bit and look at what's actually happening within our brains and our nervous system. So when we have those racing thoughts, we're definitely in a heightened state. So we can contribute to getting to that place. So basically, we might be in sort of fight or flight mode, we might, I've got so many things on my mind, I don't actually feel like doing anything or getting the things done. We might distract ourselves or procrastinate. And our brain's filtering system, which I think is so important here, where our attention is going and how that's being controlled, can feel overwhelmed. And again, that's what's happening like within our brains. And dopamine overload. So I really want to like explore dopamine, because I feel like this term's coming up like a lot more. Like it's always obviously been crucial to understanding the nervous system, but like, and like our like how we're processing things. But I think dopamine overall, if we look at it lightly here, like it tends to feel overloaded from that constant stimulation. So that's phones, scrolling, multitasking. Like there's so many things that, yeah, like are kind of contributing to like, and affecting our dopamine. And then cortisol, which is our stress hormone, that makes us feel, because we're kind of responding to all these different things happening, our cortisol tends to be switched on, like, and feels like it's switched on like a lot more and heightened a lot more. So it's kind of like understanding, essentially, like the way I kind of look at it is, if you have, I don't know about you, but I definitely have a lot of tabs open sometimes when I'm at work. But if you've got like 50 tabs open in your brain, like eventually, you know, it's going to slow down the processing, or, you know, something might crash. And I think it's just understanding like that's how it feels. I think that's the kind of best way I can describe it. So I think this is what's genuinely helped me understand, like when I'm overstimulated, how can we understand it for ourselves and notice it. So for me, like awareness is obviously the core fundamental here, and intention of trying to understand it. And I think like some signs, if we pick out maybe like 5 signs that you might be like feeling overstimulated, or things that might be showing up for you. One thing is like you can't finish one thought without jumping to the next. So again, that might be something that might resonate, but it's definitely something that I've noticed within myself. Small things can feel overwhelming, like even a small task that you know is going to take you 5 minutes might feel like a bit too much. Also, like feeling tired mentally, leading to physical restlessness. I think like, you know, not being able to sit down, but like knowing that you're tired and knowing that you need rest. Another kind of thing or kind of sign that you might be overstimulated could be that you're a little bit more irritated or emotional than, like, if you, like, obviously if you know yourself and self-reflect, like some things you might be getting a bit more irritated at than you normally would. Like, so I think it's just understanding how that's showing up. Another thing, and like kind of the fourth or fifth thing I think that I've mentioned now, will be how, you know, sitting in silence, which I might have touched upon before, but sitting in silence might feel uncomfortable. And that actually is so crazy, because like sitting in silence and just sitting and allowing yourself to be is such a skill that I think that we're kind of not, like, we don't have the capacity or space maybe that we might have had before. It's obviously depending on the individual, right? But like, if you feel like you need constant noise or distraction, like something always on in the background or something, like if we can't just be with our thoughts and not needing stimulation at the same time, you know, I think that's something also to think about. Another thing about signs like of overstimulation is like struggling to relax, even if you have time to relax, you've dedicated time, that's struggling to just fully allow yourself to be. So I hope that gives you some flavor of like what, like how this might be connected and what, you know, you might be experiencing, and that sort of connecting it to like overwhelm. And yeah, I think that's like why right now I really want to share like some actual tips about how to like understand when we're feeling this way, what can we do, and what might help us like soothe and understand this a bit better and process it a bit better. So kind of the first thing that I really wanted to share here was, I think sometimes we have this narrative where you have to fix all these different thoughts that we're having, like I shouldn't be thinking that, or like, you know, that shouldn't be happening, or having so many thoughts and opinions about our thoughts. But I think the first kind of zooming out step would be reducing the amount of input. What I mean by this is, if you're constantly feeding your mind or our minds with information, content, like how can we calm our mind if we're doing that all the time? I think allowing ourselves to not have constant stimuli is really important. So short form content, like this is why I really love YouTube, because and podcasts, and just like sitting and delving into a thought without having a quick tip, 5 things, or like in like a 30-second video. I think that's so useful, 1000%. But because it's so quick, I think our brain will receive such amazing information and helpful information, but we haven't had time to digest it. I definitely feel like that, as I see so many amazing bits of content and useful advice, and I'm just like, how then I forget about it, because I'm like, I haven't given myself time to understand and unpack it and really pick out what's really going to be useful. So I think lowering screen time in general is so important. Like, if you've got the notification on your phone where it tells you how much screen time you have, I think it's really interesting to have a look and see, where is your attention going. Remember, your biggest thing I've ever learned is your attention is your biggest currency. And like power, like what we give our attention to has power over us, or can have power within our life. And I think that's like what I've learned. And I think essentially, yeah, lowering screen time, if this is helpful, especially short form content like scrolling, so on, like if you can just limit it a little bit more day by day, I think it'll allow, again, our brains to have time just to digest and process, which is so crucial, especially in like the world of AI now. Like, things are so quick and information is so quick. How do we allow our brain to go through that process of just understanding and formulating? And I think it's so key. I think another thing is like taking breaks from these noises that we have. Like, I actually feel like music, I've always loved music, but I think even more so, I've just kind of understood and kind of appreciated it more, because it's like something you're giving energy and attention to, but it's also got an effect. Like, what you listen to has an effect on your mood potentially. Or like, I don't know, when I'm at the gym, like I'll listen to a bit more like a upbeat, like energizing playlist. Whereas if I want to relax, like, that can be one way to, like, you're not visually like stimulating, but you're mentally, and like depending on what mood you might be in or need at that moment. I think that's a great way to think about it. Also, reading, again, if you can, out of a screen. I know Kindles are great, but again, what might be another route to avoid, like, or have time away from the screens. So yeah, definitely really recommend those, because I think they've been really helping me. Like, I think there's this term again that's been floating around, like going analog. And I think it's just so interesting how we can still have elements of our lives that aren't from waking up and looking at your phone, then going to your work screens, then going to your phone, then watching TV at night. Like, we're constantly driven by screens. So I hope that helps. Next thing is, another suggestion is something called a bit of like a reset for our brain. And I don't mean this from like a productivity lens. What I mean is, like, if you meditate or connect to your breath, I think this is definitely a way of doing it. And like, a way you could do this is sitting in silence for like 5 to 10 minutes and just connecting back to your breath and how you're feeling, and noticing feelings and what's going on, and being the observer. The best thing that I've ever learned is from an app called Headspace, which is a meditation app, and actually how I started meditating. And I think I've been using it for like nearly 5-6 years now, probably longer. And one of the meditations in that, I don't know if it's still on there, I hope it is, but it basically taught me that your thoughts are literally clouds, and you are the blue sky. You are that sky, and those clouds are passing as they do throughout the day. And giving yourself time to observe those clouds moving really, again, can help calm us and bring us back and ground us when we're feeling that overstimulation, when we're feeling those racing thoughts. It brings us back to the now, and knowing that it's just a thought. It's literally just a thought. And if we give space and allow the thought to just exist, but without connecting to it and having it a constant, like, imagine if the clouds are going super fast. Like, that's not how they don't go super fast. So it's like, how do we allow it to just gently flow by, identify it, but don't have to connect it, all of it, and just letting our brain reset, whether it's through a 5 to 10 minute breath work or meditation, going for a walk without your phone, or obviously if you need your phone with you for safety reasons, or obviously we all have our phones with us anyway, right? Like, but if you can go for a walk without it, great. Or like going for a walk without looking at your phone. I think, again, connecting to what's around us, I think is so important. And I think, again, these things will hopefully allow, like, definitely for me, your thoughts just to settle and have time and space without being stimulated. It's like putting yourself in that environment where they have time to process. And I think that's really, really key. Another tip or advice that I'd love to share or give is like essentially externalizing your thoughts. And what I mean by that is taking them out of your mind and onto something or in something. So whether that be voice noting or like verbally expressing it to somebody who you genuinely care, like who cares and you have that safe space with, fair enough, safe space with, that's great. But you know, sometimes journaling, however like messy it might be, unfiltered it might be, jumping from one thing to another, I might mention it in another video, but like this really, it's so incredible for your brain, because the way I look at it, if this is helpful, is that your brain, like there's nothing tangible, like what I mean is like thoughts wise, they're like obviously happening, but we can't physically see or identify or like acknowledge or see them, because there's so many that we have in a day. That's why, like, with the racing thoughts element of this, like, it's just everything's moving quickly. When you journal or write things down, like just write down like what is happening in my mind today, what is coming up for me. Is it a worry about something, for example? Like writing it down gives that thought whatever energy it's kind of accumulating in our brain and feeling fast and quick, even it puts it down and it slows it down in some sort of way, and it gives it a space to exist tangibly and for you to see it and acknowledge, actually explore it a little bit more deeper if you need to, or if not, like that is also something really profound from journaling. It's like you don't need to get answers from it, it's just a way. I mean, if you do, great, but like it's not always needed. I think that's the power of it. It's like this is just what's going on, and it gives it a space to exist and feel like just space from your mind space into like a written format. So I really hope that if you've never tried that, or if you've done it here and there, I really hope like, yeah, if it adds value, because it's definitely given me so much value, even just to start my morning with writing down. Like, I do a gratitude journal, which I think has really helped in like just intentions for the day, and I think that really helps. So yeah, I really hope that if you try that, you haven't before, that might offer some like just support. And also a mental to-do list. I think sometimes I feel like when things feel busy in a work sense, just writing it down, like if you know you've got to send this or deep dive into that or reply to this person, like a mental to-do list or a physical, both, like again gives us that clarity and somehow eases some tension. Like I urge you to try it if you haven't, because yeah, so helpful. Another tip or piece of advice which I've tried that I think really, really helps me is regulating your nervous system. Now I've made a video, I don't know if it'll go out before or after this one, but if it's gone out before, I really recommend checking that one out, because I've deep dived essentially what is going on in our nervous system, and what we might need, especially when we're feeling overstimulated or overwhelmed, and regulating it. Like everything is connected. That is the beauty of it. Once we know everything is connected, your breath and your body and your mind all connected. And when we slow things down, have an element of awareness and control over the way we're deep breathing, for example, can really slow down and help us feel a little more in the driver's seat about these things. Even slowing down our movements, like not rushing to do so many different things in one go. And I think grounding, again, is such a profound way of doing this. I gave the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise, but if you haven't heard about it before, it's essentially 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And that method, again, can bring you back when you notice, again, these are all advice and tips, when you notice and it's feeling a lot and like overstimulated from constant input from things, right? This is a kind of way to just zoom out, and say you're feeling tense and you've seen a social media post that's kind of made you feel unsettled or uncomfortable. This is a way, I think, just to come back to your here and now. And I think the other kind of bit that I really wanted to call upon or talk about here is about regulating, again, our nervous system. But I think from that though, I think I mentioned about jumping between different things before, is multitasking. I think it's sometimes people like it's a great thing, and that fair enough. I think it depends on the context, I feel, but if you're already feeling overwhelmed and there's a lot going on in your mind, right? Like sometimes multitasking doesn't allow us to focus on something. You're just overloading it more potentially. And I think when we focus on one thing at a time, it allows us to have those smaller pockets of just focus and getting it done, and easing any sort of tension that might be around a certain thing or thought. So I think if you've got these thoughts, I need to do so many things, make that to-do list that you might need, and hopefully that will again allow you to have those again pockets of focus, because sometimes jumping between things too much it doesn't allow us to slow down. And I think slowing down is something which I'm learning more and more, and I'm appreciating more and more, is slowing down, making moments to slow down. Even creating this video is such a nice way to slow and reflect on a topic and understand, and it gives me so much joy. And I really hope that and I've done this before, is I'll be listening to something and then I'll be doing 4 things at the same time. So it's how can we truly engage with what is in front of us in general, in so many different things, so I hope these multitasking or reducing multitasking where you can allow you to do that. And so the final kind of advice and tip that I would give is low stimulation routine. So what I mean by this is, if your morning starts with you straight on your phone, immediately, if you think I think there's this, I'll reflect on it probably in a future video, but there's certain windows where in our kind of waking up and sort of before we go to sleep, where our subconscious mind is, I think, quite susceptible. And I think if we're jumping on our phone and the first thing you're seeing is a horrible news story or something really sad, fair enough, these things exist and we're not pretending that they don't. But I think, is it the best thing to I guess start your day with consuming that information, which can then affect how the rest of your day might feel? I think when we wake up, we easing ourselves into the day, taking it a little bit slower and just allowing ourselves time to process and wake up naturally and enter the day with a clear mind and calmness. I think just remember, your phone is such a great tool. I open my phone to open the meditation app Headspace. That's what I do. And then that's it. And then I journal and read a page of The Pivot Year, which is a great book. It's a daily, just passage or a thought or reflection on just life. And I think that's such a beautiful book. So I highly recommend that. Again, just what little things can you do for yourself? Is it going and making your coffee and enjoying that? Is it looking out of the window? Is it going outside? Is it cuddling with your pet? Is it cuddling with a loved one? What is it that you can do that can be without your phone for the first 30 minutes to an hour? I think similar at night, scrolling is so easy to do at night. But if you're feeding those things again constantly, before you sleep, it makes it harder for our brains to switch off. I think whether it could be a 5 to 10 minute closing meditation or just taking 4 to 5 deep breaths before you go to bed. How can we ground and calm our nervous system and help those thoughts slow and again become that observer that I mentioned before. And any quiet time that you can get daily, like whether that's just, I don't know, quiet time looks so different for everybody depending on your responsibilities and what's happening in your life, like at that moment, right? I can, like, it's so dependent on different factors. But if you can get 5 minutes, say you've got a lot of meetings that day, how can you get 5 minutes just you enjoying a cup of tea, or, you know, messaging back a loved one that you needed to do that you've been thinking about for a while, and then putting your phone away and just enjoying some peace, looking out the window. Like what could you do? I know these sound so simple, right? But I think that is the beauty of it, is that sometimes we underestimate is the word. We underestimate how important the simple things are, truly. I think that's what, again, I'm learning as I go. But yeah, I really, really hope this video has been helpful for you, and understanding stimulation, overstimulation, racing thoughts, how we can manage these things, and the different things that are contributing to that overstimulation. And just remember, like, if your mind feels chaotic right now and there's a lot going on, it doesn't mean there's something wrong. Like, it just might mean that you've been overstimulated for quite a while and you're becoming aware of it and you're realizing this doesn't feel good. And I think a lot of it is feeling, coming into our body and feeling like, where do I feel tense? Do I feel like, you know, is my brain or my head like feeling tense? Like, you know, not exactly your brain, but your head, like, you know, what we can feel the tension around here, right? Like, what is your body trying to say? And I think the more we can connect to our bodies and breath, I'm learning that again so much. So I really hope this really helps. So yeah, if this resonated, I really love if you could, share this with a loved one, and subscribe for similar content. There's so many different topics that I'm really excited to talk more and just reflect on with you and share learnings together. So yeah, I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much again, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care. Bye.